Welcome to War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, coming to you every week from deep within the Outer Rim, far beyond the watchful ice of the Galactic Empire. Join your hosts, John Mark Tolley, Garrett K. Jones, and Brian Karasik, as they discuss the various facets of the saga's lore, characters, review the films, and discuss every tidbit of news coming out of Lucasfilm. And remember, this isn't just my Star Wars, this isn't just your Star Wars, this is our Star Wars.
It is indeed our Star Wars. Welcome once again to a new episode of War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast with myself, John Mark Tolley, Brian Kresick, and Garrett K. Jones. And before we get to our main topic, as you have been, if you've been following us for the last few weeks, you know that we are in the middle of March Wars madness here on War of the Stars, and we are coming up to the Final Four, as we will be facing off. And Brian, why don't you tell us on your side of the bracket who will be facing off against each other in your side of the bracket in the Final Four?
Brian.
I mean, Garrett. Oh, I said Brian.
Oh, yeah, I got really confused there because I'm like,
yeah. Sorry,
I this week doesn't mean we've switched responsibilities.
I'm going to have to reconnect, guys. Both of you guys sound very digitized. I can barely make out a word. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, while we're waiting for Brian to come back, so starting with Hoth, we had the twins, Luke versus Leia. We had a total of 6 votes. 4 went to Luke and 2 went for Leia. Really no surprise. I was surprised by is that I would have thought we would have had more ladies voting for Leia. But Janae, who's on Feast of Fandom, she's on the Geek Gauntlet every Saturday. She actually voted for Luke.
Really?
She would have. That's kind of crazy. So yeah, but it wasn't a runaway because it was only 67% to 33%. The one that is kind of a crazy upset, and it's a little bit of a closer matchup as far as percentages. We had, and this is the region, Coruscant region. We had Vader versus Qui-Gon. And this one we had 7 votes out of, and 43% of the votes went to Vader. The dark side has been eliminated from Coruscant.
Really? Qui-Gon?
I did not see that one coming.
Wow. I did not see that thing either. Wow. That is a shot. I mean,
so
wow.
Yeah, that was a crazy upset. So now going into the Final Four, we have Luke Skywalker versus Qui-Gon Jinn.
That's an
I mean, if you would have told me, I would automatically say, well, Luke has this, but I would have thought Vader had it too. I was expecting to see Vader versus father versus son once again in the semifinals.
That would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah, but wow. All right, over on my side, in the Tatooine bracket, there was only a total of 3 votes, but Obi-Wan beat Ahsoka with all 3 votes. 100% of the votes went to Obi-Wan. I'm actually surprised Ahsoka didn't get any votes.
Yeah, she's got a huge fan base.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just low voting. In the upset, the number 12 seed Fennec Shan with there was 9 votes in this one, but with 66.7% of the vote, Fennec Shan beat Bo-Katan. So
really?
It will be yes. So it will be Fennec Shan versus Obi-Wan.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, can we see Master versus Apprentice? Obi-Wan against Qui-Gon or Obi-Wan against. Either way, you have Master versus Apprentice.
This is
I
true.
think, because I mean, I don't really think a Finnick really has a chance against Obi-Wan. I mean, as cool as a
For
character
sure.
as she is, I mean, Obi-Wan is going to take it, I think.
I would agree.
But so either way, you're probably going to have Master versus Apprentice. It's just a matter of who's the Master and who's the Apprentice.
Yeah. This is going to be cool. Very cool.
It is.
All right.
right. Garrett, what are we talking about today? I know today was supposed to be our mailbag day. Do we have any questions that need?
No, not today. No, mailbag is not for like 4 more weeks.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought this was.
Mm-mm. We're waiting for the 5th Wednesday because we have 5 Wednesdays in April.
Oh,
We are jumping back into our lore episode
that is right.
with the lore of Batuu. And if you're not familiar with Batuu, well, that's Batuu bad because we're talking about it.
No.
Brian's going to kill me.
No, I respect it. Game respect game. I like it.
But for those of you who are not familiar with it, Batuu is the remote terrestrial planet at the edge of the galaxy's outer rim territories. It is where you can find Black Spire Outpost, which is part of the Galaxy's Edge zone at your local Disney park, whether it's Anaheim's Disneyland or Orlando's. What part of Orlando is it in? Like, I have no idea. Like, Walt Disney World is so huge.
I
It's
don't
in
know.
a bad part of Orlando called Orlando.
Now, do the other here's one thing I've always wondered: do the other
Right over the
Disney
plate, that
parks have the Star Wars, the Batuu, and all that? Is like does Disneyland Paris, does Disneyland Tokyo? Do they have it too, or is
I
it
thought
I'm
just
pulling it
the
up right
US
now.
parks?
Okay, so far, only Disneyland and Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World have it. So it's
Okay.
only in the United States.
Okay.
So there's no international version of this yet. And I think it has to do with, I think, marketing rights or something like that. I don't know. But like, so yeah, both locations do feature the village of Black Spire Outpost. Attractions like Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, and Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. And then they have the same shopping and dining experiences. So the menu options are going to be more or less the same.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna I have to lean on you guys because I have never been to Batuu or Black Spire because
Neither
the last time I was, what's that?
Neither have I.
Well, Brian,
Let me
this
tell
is going to
you.
be your show.
I gotta say, guys, don't do what I did. Don't go to Galaxy's Edge in 2021 during a pandemic in August with a 3-year-old who does not like Star Wars. It will really detriment your experience. That said, my daughter was a trooper. We set her up for. So there are, of course, I'm not telling the audience anything they don't know, but just for the sake of argument, when we were there, there were 2 rides, both of which you had to get in a considerable line for well in advance. Like you were there, I believe there's a method in the app. You book a spot in line, and then you make they call it a reservation for the ride. I think the coolest thing about Galaxy's Edge is the environment. I'm not a big fan of the rides. I don't care for waiting in line for 3 hours for a 7-minute experience. Which is not to say it's not an amazing ride. It's just not for me. Let me fly a TIE Fighter. I don't care about the Millennium Falcon. Let me fly the Imperial Shuttle. Like I wish more on that in a minute. But anyway, you can make an appointment at to make a lightsaber, which is a fully in character experience. You pick the parts, you pick the color and all that stuff. And they're really nice looking lightsabers. They feel a little chunky, almost. They are not as I would say they're not as technically solid as like Vader's Vault, a kyber cave, like a stunt combat saber you might get online,
Mm.
but they're very nice, and the experience is worth it. And you're not paying a 600, like my main saber is a $600 full contact saber, and you're paying 120 odd bucks for this experience, and I think the experience itself is worth 120 bucks. We did not get a lightsaber because we have quite a preponderance of lightsabers at the house already. So what we did do is make an appointment to go to the Droid Depot, and my daughter built herself a BB-9 Echo. Very proud of her. And at the time,
Oh.
she was so young, she called BB-8 Hat Ball because he's a ball with a hat. That was his hat ball. And so then she made a BB-9. She made a BB-9 and she named him Bad Hat Ball. So that's cool. I like that. And I tell you, the BB-8 that I had was a Spin Master Hero droid, and that has gone defunct. But the Galaxy's Edge one we got in 2021 is are you guys hearing that?
Yeah, what it sounds like someone's having an argument.
It's probably my wife just got home with my daughter.
Fair enough. All right.
I don't think they're having an argument. They're just talking.
She's entitled.
And that mic is powerful.
We had a great time. The environment is spot on. I really enjoyed the cast members will greet you by saying bright suns. They say goodbye by saying till the spire. There's jargon, there's lingo. It's a creation of a world.
Mm-hmm.
I adopted, and I'm trying to normalize this. I would say force free you as a goodbye. Force free you. And I got a lot of people to come back at me with that, and you guys might know that is a reference to the last line of the Sith code. So convincing people at Galaxy's Edge to quote the Sith code at each other was a real victory for me.
Of course you do that.
I did not go in costume because, as I mentioned, it was August in Orlando, and you don't want to wear 9 yards of black fabric in that environment. I would just
absolutely not.
But I did wear a COVID mask with Palpatine's face and mouth, or nose and mouth on it. I wore my yellow contacts. I wore a Palpatine T-shirt, which is like it's printed with the robe pattern, so like it's a T-shirt that looks like robes. So kind of Disney bounding, kind of not. And I had a great time. The environment is 100% accurate. I asked a cast member for if they had the Mickey Mouse ears. And they, without batting an eye, she said, "We don't sell Womp Rat parts here. You'd have to go outside of Batuu for that." So nice. It is a Disney park, but the experience is very immersive, and I was really impressed. I liked it a lot. I did not have a chance to go on the Halcyon Star Cruiser, just because I am not independently wealthy. And again, neither of the women in my life is particularly into Star Wars. My daughter wanted a new toy, not a Star Wars droid. And my wife may as well have stayed back at the pool for all she enjoyed it. So yeah. We didn't do that, but I will say, as far as Batuu goes, I was concerned when Disney bought the franchise, not that they would Disneyfy the stories. And maybe they have, maybe they haven't. That's endlessly debatable. But what I was concerned about, as you've heard me say, is that Disney was going to put all the coolest stuff behind very expensive gates. And I feel like that's exactly what they did. And it's, in my opinion, it's a reason that the Star Cruiser failed. Because what they did was, here's a 3-day indoor experience that you can pay $6,000 for. And you can have you could get as involved in the storyline as you want to. Depending on what you said to crew members, like the example that I was told was, if you are up in the middle of the night and you see 2 guards escorting a Wookiee through the hallway, the reason that happened is another guest elsewhere in the hotel assisted in capturing that Wookiee. Like everything moved together, and I think it was brilliantly put together, but the execution of it just seemed so crass and commercialized. Like it could have been beautiful, but instead, and this was what bothered me was I started seeing links to these really cool costumes, like what a noble of the Star Wars world would wear on vacation, like in character costumes. Okay, really nice. Wow, $1,200 for this suit. Where would you get it? Oh, you have to make your non-refundable reservation for the $6,000 Star Cruiser first, and then thanks for paying $6,000 for 4 days, 4 days. Now you have the opportunity to spend another $4,000 on clothes you can wear. and you can't buy them without the ticket. It felt a little much to me, honestly. And I did see, maybe it wasn't her best day, and I have nothing but respect for the cast members who do costume work at Disneyland, Disney World. It is a dream of mine to participate in something like that. But I did see footage of Rey in a confrontation with the First Order on aboard the Halcyon, and she had the really fancy lightsaber, the one that actually extends, right? And so she's like, "You won't defeat us," and activates the saber, and it extends out. Cool, really neat. And then she very carefully puts down the $5,000 prop and picks up the combat prop and stands back up. Like, it's just so transparently. It just felt really high school theater to me.
Yeah.
But anyone who's ever done any kind of stagecraft like that, you can see where the switch happens.
Yes. And I'm not claiming to be any great shakes at theater. It's been decades since I was involved in any kind of theatrical production, but she just was not trying at all. It was couldn't be more apparent.
There's also
I didn't go on the Star Cruiser. I did love Batuu. I had a great time talking with cast members, with other people. I dearly wish I had been in costume, because that would have been even more fun. But it just logistically didn't work out. So all of that said, I really do appreciate how they tied in Batuu to the fiction. Like, as soon as Galaxy's Edge was announced, all of a sudden 3-4 books and 2 or 3 different comic book lines are mentioning going to Batuu. They really brought it into the canon, and they built it backwards. It's retroactive. Like, we start hearing about Han Solo's time in Batuu 5-10 years ago. So it there's something to be said for some cross promotion. I can respect it, but I would love to go back. I was never going to do the Star Cruiser. And then the last thing I'll say on it, they made a really big deal about how in character everything was. And so you are in the Star Wars universe, and yet I see footage of Jedi checking on board. There's no Jedi at this time in the galactic history. And the cast is like, "Welcome to this fully immersive canonical experience, lightsabers in the gift shop." It's not quite what it was cracked up to be. But some of that, I admit, some of that sour grapes, if it had been half as much money, I probably would have gone. So that's my take on Batuu. I loved it. I could have stayed there all day. I know people who go there once a week, if not more, and they just hang out. They don't ride rides. They don't necessarily go for souvenirs. They just go hang out.
Yeah.
I mean, if I lived closer and I had the money, I probably would too. If my wife would let me.
Yeah, for me, it's crazy because, like, I mean, I'm 3.5-4 hours away from Disneyland, but like, it is so expensive to go that since this, like, because Galaxy's Edge opened 2019?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That happened a year after the last time I had actually been there. And then, like, just a few months later, like, COVID hit. And so there was no opportunity to go because everything just shut down. And since, like, I've thought about going, but like, tickets are so expensive. Like, for a one day ticket, just for myself as an adult, it's almost $200, and that's not counting cost for food. That's not counting cost for parking. That's not counting, if I stay down there for the night afterwards, because there's no way I'm driving back up to Hanford, that same night. There's no way. But it's like, I so desperately want to go just for the experience of being there for at least one time, and riding the rides and checking it out, because it looks like so much fun. My son has been there. He was actually there a little over a year ago, and he did not care for it. Partly because, like, the one ride he went on there was the Rise of the Resistance, and it was a little too intense for him. What he especially didn't like were the scenes where the tram that you're in starts moving backwards. He didn't like that because he couldn't turn around, he couldn't do anything, he couldn't see what was coming, and it really freaked him out. that, and just everything was very overwhelming. So like when you're a kid who's 7, almost 8 years old, and you're on the spectrum and you're dealing with all these visual and auditory stimulations, it was too much for him.
Yeah.
I can see that. I'm impressed he put up with it, honestly. That's a lot to tolerate.
I'm amazed that he put up with Pirates of the Caribbean, because he was not told in advance that there was going to be drops at the beginning.
Oh.
It freaked him out. It legitimately freaked him out.
I think we may go back. Actually, my experience at Disney World was such that my conversation with Disney guest services subsequent to my visit was sufficient for them to give me 3-day passes to all the parks and a 3-day stay at any resort on the property. Wasn't the best time, but they really made it. They really made good on it. So like, here's these passes, and you've got 5 years to use them. So I'd love to go back, and we're talking about doing that in September or maybe early next year. At which point, I would love to bring my daughter back there, because she has a really cool Anakin costume. Her name is Gwen. I call her Gwenikin. She's, if I'm honest, she's really more about the Powerpuff Girls right now. But I think we could make it work. Like I could make her like a Powerpuff Jedi and get her a color-coded lightsaber and such. And she's got a Rey lightsaber from Target, but it is a nice one, and she does good work with it. She duels me, and it's kind of hard to get her. She's got skills. She's been since she was 4.
So, Brian, I want to ask, since you're the only one of the 3 of us who's been to Black Spire Outpost in Batuu, I'm a foodie. What's the food like?
It was really good. That's something you can count on at Disney World, is the food is going to be amazing. It was presented on, like, I sat on an ammo canister was my stool. I mean, you really feel like you are in a spaceport. And the food, while delicious, was presented like on a sort of a steel cafeteria style tray. And like you absolutely feel like you just parked your Star Cruiser in Dock 46. I can't say enough about it. I forget what I got. I did not get the blue milk. I prefer my milk to be pink in color if it's going to be colored. I like strawberry milk. I don't know if I trust the blue milk, but the food was delicious. I got sort of I think it was the something grilled. I was 2021, but it was
it
really good.
The Ronto wrap?
Yes, it was the Ronto wrap. I will say I paid $6 for a bottle of Coke that's shaped like a thermal detonator and says Coke.
Nice.
And you guys would have to know, I am very much of the jam a bunch of LED lights into something school of decoration. So when I got home, I took this bottle, drilled a hole in it, and then fed about 15 feet of LED lights into it, and then sealed it off with with a glue stick. And so now it's my desk lamp in my office. So it's
that's fun.
Nice
USB light up Coke bottles. That's really cool. And that's exactly what I wanted Galaxy's Edge to provide. This is my theory on Star Wars merch. I don't want a T-shirt that says Star Wars. I want a T-shirt that says CNR Systems Company Picnic 44 ABY. I don't want something about Star Wars. I want something that someone in Star Wars would wear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite coffee cup, I think I've told you guys, is a coffee cup that says "Property of Death Star Cantina. Do not remove."
Nice.
That would be
perfect.
Cool.
And of course,
I saw the company I work for. I'm a bus driver, so I transport people, and I transported someone to a group home, and the girl who came out was wearing a hoodie that said Income Corporation, and it had a picture of the X-wing coming up, and it was like,
that's awesome.
It's a Property of Income Corporation. I was like, that is cool.
It's worn out now, but I used to have a collared shirt that said North Central Positronics HR, which is from Stephen King's Dark Tower. That's like the bad corporation. I love that kind of thing, and Galaxy's Edge is full of it. I'm in 2 different Star Wars groups dedicated to people who will go to Galaxy's Edge and buy merch for you. I had an amazing moment at the Jawa Outfitters, I think they call it. I forget which. There's 2 different stores of Star Wars merch, but they had an Emperor cloak, which I now have, and I tried it on over like my Hawaiian shirt and and cargo pants. I tried the cloak on, put the hood over, and just gave it my all and did the whole big loud cackle. Whole store turned around like that. That's, I'm not gonna lie, that's very gratifying to do that, and everyone whips around like, oh shit, he's here. And then I took the hood off and said, bam, bam, it fits, just like completely. But
that's fun.
I mean, honestly, the trip to Galaxy's Edge is worth it just to go. I complained earlier about putting cool things behind expensive gates. There is plenty of really cool stuff. Like messenger bags that have like Rebel insignia on it. Get yourself an AT-AT pilot backpack. The clothes and stuff they sell in the stores are really just, for me, worth the price of admission. Again, I have not ridden the rides. I don't have any interest in riding the rides. But what I would like is if they put a ride in where you get to be part of the Empire, part of the First Order. That I'm here for. But it's worth going just to see the environment they've created and to participate in the action, because I did not see one single guest who wasn't there to do exactly that. And like, you might be wearing a goofy hat and a "He's my beauty, he's my beast" T-shirt, but people are still saying "May the Force be with you" and till the star, till the spire, this sort of thing. I've always said that Star Wars fans, particularly at conventions and environments like that, you're surrounded by 20,000 of your best friends you haven't met yet, and that's a perfect environment to just strike up a conversation. I mean, and I bet a lot of friendships are made in line for those rides. You're standing there for 2 hours waiting to get on board the Millennium Falcon, and everybody on board has completely jazzed to get there, to be there too. It reminds me, I had a really, really rewarding moment in an airport. I was wearing Darth Vader sunglasses. I had a Palpatine T-shirt on, and I had Palpatine's cane with me, and I'm in the lounge of the airport, and I'm reading Darth Plagueis. and like couldn't be Star Wars signaling stronger. And this fella in the lounge there is like giving me a serious eyeball. And the guy, like hair, kind of receding hairline, still with a ponytail, bit of a beard, maybe a little overweight. He's checking me out. And after the third time he made eye contact and shyly looked away, I said, "Hey." He says, "Yeah." I was like, "You want to talk about Star Wars?" He said, "Yeah, I do." And he sat down, and we spent an hour and a half at the gate talking about Star Wars, and he ended up being seated next to me on the airplane. And so we just had a great time.
Yeah.
I love moments like that, and Batuu is full of them.
I had something similar to that last time I was at Dollywood, where I had just a regular Star Wars T-shirt, and was just kind of hanging out. My wife was doing something, and there was a group of people, and they kind of did the same thing. They kind of looked at me like, and pretty soon we were talking like, "You like Star Wars? I like Star Wars. Let's." Yeah, it's just funny where you, and of course I told them we had a podcast, and they're like, "Oh," and they got on their phone. They're like, "What's it called?" And
I try to stick with the show motto before I even met you guys. If I talk to somebody in public, some stranger out in town about Star Wars, rule number one, I agree with you. What's your favorite video game? Oh, that's the best. Who's your favorite character? Oh, he's so awesome. There's why wouldn't you? Share in the joy, because whoever you're talking to, you can make that experience an argument, or you can make it a fellowship, and I love that kind of moment. I mean, that's not even to touch on the lore of Batuu, which is pretty interesting. If you've read, like, you can get the tour guide, and they talk about it in quite a few books. I think it was a certain point of view has like 3 or 4 different stories where someone is at Batuu, and but it is like going to Star Wars Celebration, but you can go any time of year. And shout out to my friends going to Japan in a couple of weeks. Very nice.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous because I would like to go back to Japan, except fear of flying gets in the way.
That is a shame because there is quite a bit of flying involved.
Yes, I know. At least from California, it's only a 9.5-hour flight. For you guys, I mean, you'd have to go across the country plus that 9.5 hours.
Yeah.
The standard trip to Japan
I
from
flew-
Durham is 2 hours to Chicago, 2.5 hours to Chicago, bit of a layover in Chicago, and then 13 hours to Tokyo.
Both times I've been, and we just went to the airport because we went to Thailand, and both times we flew from Minneapolis, St. Paul, direct flight to Narita International, and it was like I don't know how long it was, but it was really, really long. The whole thing was the whole flight was over 21 hours. From there to Bangkok.
Classic Simpsons episode when they go to Japan, when they land, the pilot says, "Welcome to Japan, where the local time is next Tuesday."
Yep, very accurate.
Bart says,
Yeah.
"That flight was too long. Why'd we have to change in Atlanta twice?" It's funny that I've always made that joke on a long trip, but one of the last times I traveled with the simulators, I did actually change in Atlanta twice. I woke up in California, flew to Atlanta, and then flew to Tulsa, worked the day in Tulsa, and then flew to Atlanta and flew home to RDU. So like in one 16-hour period, I was in Atlanta twice.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
I think it was that was rough. 230 plus nights a year in hotels. You really get to know the security agents at Delta. Like, hey Keith, hey there Brian, the guy who does shoe shines in Atlanta Concourse D. What I was going to say about Batuu though, and just to kind of bring it back to that, there's a part of Star Wars that becomes a part of you, and Batuu is almost a unique opportunity to become a part of Star Wars. And from what I have been told, I haven't tested this, but from what I've been told, Galaxy's Edge has a much more lenient costume policy. Like most of the parks, you can't go to the park dressed as Tinkerbell or whatever, because they don't want. I mean, once you're over, I think 14, there's an age cutoff. Kids are free to dress up, but adults, they don't like costumes at the parks. But Galaxy's Edge has a much more lenient policy. From last I checked, if your face is not covered and your costume is not dragging on the ground, because that's a trip hazard, you're golden. And I saw some and have seen some really impressive cosplays. A lot of Mandalorians holding their helmet. I don't know about that. You got to stick with the character. But there's just such a preponderance of people who put so much into it. It really is like going to a con. But I think, I don't know if they do this for Disneyland. Is there like a local? Because I don't think they do it anymore since COVID. But for a while, you could get a Disney what is it, the local pass or something. You can get like an annual pass and just go in as many times as you want. Whatever. These are what they call them, snugglers, because the word smuggle can trip off Facebook settings. But this Facebook group I'm in, where they will buy stuff for you at Galaxy's Edge, they call them snugglers. Looking for a snuggler? I need, the new coaxium drink bottle or whatever.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah, so I don't know if they have that in California, but it is worth the drive, Garrett. You should definitely look into getting out there. Don't bring your kids. Go by yourself the first time, because you're going to want to enjoy it. And you bring a kid to Disney, the trip is naturally about the kid.
I'm pretty sure if I went to Disneyland without my son, he might get a little upset, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. Like, it's one of those. Like,
does he listen to the show?
No, he doesn't.
Just kidding.
But I mean, the last time I went to Disneyland was at the start of Pixar Fest in spring of 2018. I went with my best friend and his sisters and a couple of other friends of ours that I knew who worked at the park. And it was just a fun time, but my ex-wife was really pissed that I went to Disneyland without her.
That's funny.
Yeah, my wife is.
I can see her getting on board with that.
Yeah, my wife has said that she has no interest in going to Disney World or Disneyland. So,
what we should do,
unless something happens, there's I don't know. We did talk. If we did go, we would probably end up going to Disneyland. just because California is a little bit closer than Orlando is, and
Wait a minute.
I think
You guys how is Orlando not closer to you
I don't
than
know.
California?
Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't really looked at the flight.
I would
at the
imagine it would be
distance.
pretty equidistant for you.
Yeah, probably. But it's just the fact that she doesn't know if she'd be able, because she has bad knees. She don't know if she'd be able to handle Disney World, and it being so like Disney World seems so overwhelming. Like you have
Yes.
all of the
Go to
parks, whereas Disneyland is just basically just one park.
I've been to both, and Disneyland is definitely, you could go to Disneyland and spend a day there.
Yeah.
A day at Disney World doesn't scratch the surface.
Like she did Dollywood Fine a couple years ago, and she had a lot of fun. And so if we did do any of the Disney parks, it would probably be Disneyland. Plus, we do know a few people in California that live out there that we might be able to stay with, or
Yeah. Well, I mean, and heck, if you guys want, if the two of you want to come out, we could do it. I'm looking at the prices right now for a Tuesday in September of this year. It would be $104 per person.
Not bad.
But that's for one
what are
park
flights
per day.
Oh, well, we'd only do one park.
Yeah, there's really only one. There's only need for one park,
Right.
and we would spend pretty much our entire time either in that one zone or at store tours, or waiting in line at Indiana Jones because it broke down for the 55th time that day.
I've heard that's bad for that.
Yeah. What are flights to out there?
Well, it depends. Let's take a look.
Because I'd probably be flying out of either Indy or St. Louis, because those are the two closest airports to me that are
Okay.
O'Hare.
Let's say flights. Let's just say. What was the first one?
Indianapolis.
And would you fly into Los Angeles then?
Probably, yeah. Fly into LAX.
I just want flights. I don't care about the hotels. I just want flights. Why do you have to be difficult, Trivago? Okay, let's try that. This episode is taking a very weird turn. Like
It has.
we were supposed to talk about lore, but there's really not so much lore that we know about it. It's more of just, hey, let's talk about this one part of the park.
Logistics. Unfortunately, actually, I do have to cut out here, guys. It's running a little late for me.
All right, no problem, man.
I think I said my piece. I appreciate you guys hearing me out here. I really had a great time. Anybody listening, you should go to Batuu. You will not regret it. I would go again in a second. I didn't even touch a ride. If you're interested in riding rides and that part of the lore appeals to you, I've heard nothing but good things about it. So yeah, come see me on the Facebook page, Sith Library and Archives, and thanks for tuning in. And guys, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thanks.
Later, Brian.
Later, man. Okay. From where were you? St. Paul, you said?
No, Indianapolis. St. Paul would be a 10-hour drive for me.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, I've done it before.
Let's see, departure. If we had you flying in on Monday the 1st, had you flying out on Wednesday the 3rd, economy, search. You could, if you flew Spirit, you could, yeah, you'd actually, it's kind of weird. They would have you do a layover. Like looking at the least expensive flight, it would be $270. You'd leave at 7:15 p.m. and you would arrive 10:46 p.m. Monday.
Hmm.
And that's with one stop in St. Paul.
Hmm.
So you might as well just fly from St. Paul.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I found is like, because I've looked at like flights out different places that usually like going from one big airport to another big airport seems to be cheaper. So like probably cheaper to fly out of O'Hare because that's the biggest air. That's like a hub.
And let's take a look at that. Chicago.
There's 2 airports in Chicago now.
Yeah, there's Midway and O'Hare.
Midway, O'Hare. Yeah, O'Hare's the big one.
And you could get you would actually go. Actually, there's a decent one. There's $271 flying Spirit Air. It would leave at 6:45 a.m. nonstop to LA and you'd be in LA at 9:07 a.m. and then you would fly back out on the 3rd at 5:24 p.m. and land at 11:31. There's another one, same airline, same cost, 8 a.m. flight. You'd land at 10:26 a.m. In LA, and then you fly out 2 days later on the 3rd at 7:13 a.m. and you'd be home by 1:30.
It's not bad.
No, it's not. And 271 is not a bad price for a flight. Look, I'm assuming he'd be flying out of Raleigh.
Probably, yeah. That's what I would guess.
Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah.
He'd have one stop. For him, it would be a little bit more expensive because he's flying at a further distance. The cheapest, he'd be flying Alaska Airlines, one stop in Seattle. That is the weirdest. So he'd fly Alaska Airlines to Seattle and then Seattle down to LA, and then he'd fly, but he wouldn't be coming in until like midnight. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah. See, for me, like, I'm flying out of Fresno. I don't even know if I would fly out of Fresno. I could drive. It would only take me 4 hours. And yeah, geez, holy cripes. The cheapest one-stop flight from Fresno to LAX would actually stop in Las Vegas instead of going. It would be one stop, flying into Las Vegas, then into Los Angeles. I'd actually cross state lines for $269. Like, you would have gotten for $271 coming out of Chicago, you'd get a straight flight. For $2 more, you get a straight flight. And this is ridiculous. I would just drive. At that point, I'll meet you guys at Disney.
Yeah, that's
Chicago.
It's crazy.
To Fresno. And we apologize to the folks online who are listening to this very random conversation about flights and plans to go to Disney that may not even come to fruition.
Yeah. This episode of the War of the Stars travel agency is.
We do not fly by the Speeder 3000, unfortunately. Our last pilot was C-3PO, and he kind of crashed everything. Yeah, it would actually. Yeah, nonstop to get from Chicago to Fresno would be like 3 times as expensive. So stupid. Anyway.
Wow.
Anyway. So let's get back on topic.
One thing I've always liked is this is always kind of cool to see is the reaction of people the first time they're there. Like I've seen so many times where I've seen grown men bursting into tears. They walk the corner and they see the Millennium Falcon for the first time, and just the emotions of seeing it, in person. And I've often, what would my reaction be of seeing the ship that we've grown up with the Falcon, with seeing this ship on the screen and playing with the toy version of it and all of this stuff, and then seeing it there like full scale, and you can go inside it and you can see
I would
it.
Probably be one of those people who would cry.
Oh yeah. I think I would cry because there's what I've seen is as you go up to it, you have like an A-wing and an X-wing. I think that would be just as cool seeing those.
Absolutely.
Again, the ships that you've heard about, and if you play the old video game, the old X-wing video games, you've spent hours flying an X-wing in the old X-wing video games, or any other, and then seeing it there.
Well, I'm pulling up the map right now of the park, and like just because I think the layout is so cool, because like you can like the whole point, like the way it's designed. Yeah, let me expand the map here. Like the way it's designed is all these mountains here prevent you from the way everything is done with the ridges and everything along this line prevents you from seeing anything outside of Black Spire Outpost. So you feel as immersed in the world as possible. Because even from the rest of Disneyland, like if I look out from Star Tours, I'm going to see Sleeping Beauty's castle. I'm going to look out and see Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I'm going to be able to look out and see Splash Mountain. Or as they're calling it, as the kids are calling it now, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. What a waste. I now have one less mountain to climb every time I go. But the point is that you get to see and be in this experience without any anything blocking that for you. I think that's really cool how immersive it gets.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They did that's one thing you can, say what you will about Disney, and I think this is a combination of probably Disney and Lucas film. They know how to build an experience, how to make an experience like this.
Oh yeah.
They have so much, they have so many years of work and of what how to do it, that if there was ever a company that was built for this, it was Disney.
Oh, I agree. There's a part of me though that wishes it wasn't so expensive now. Because it is like I want to have these experiences, but at the same time, it's so much. Because say I was to go on that Tuesday, it would be $104 for my ticket. I'd have to pay an additional fee for parking. I would have to, and then let's just say I went with whatever food was there. It would cost me at least anywhere between $30 and $50 to feed myself between an actual meal and snacks.
Yeah.
And then that's not counting the however many hours it takes to get through the ride just to go on Smuggler's Run and to go on Rise of the Resistance. And
then you're talking hotel.
Well, yeah, and that's talking hotel. I wouldn't stay at the park, but even if you're not staying at the park, the hotels are not going to be cheap.
No.
And so it feels, I don't know, like it almost kills the experience for me because it is such a cost. And I would want to go through the experience of building a lightsaber. That would be really, really cool. But at the same time, I don't want to spend $200 on something that could be easily broken. A friend of mine took his kids to Disneyland for the first time a few months ago, and his oldest son came home with one of the lightsabers. And it was really cool. And there's some weight to it, but like it feels clunky. It doesn't feel like, I mean, I am like, this right here is already, it's already dual ready. It doesn't have the cool sounds and everything, but this is already enough for me. And it's a double-ended saber for $150, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
So
I know a lot of people. We had some friends who went recently and they did the droid instead of, and I've heard a few people say that if you want to save money and get something that's going to last more, and be the droid is more where to go.
Oh yeah. But I mean, and there's a ton of stuff that you can get that I think would be cool. But it's exclusive to the park. But again, it feels like it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It feels kind of like it is like an artificial shortage of stuff. Like there's a total fear of missing out element that they want you to feel to be inspired to spend all that money and go. And I'm just like, I'd rather just drop $50 and spend the day on roller coasters at Magic Mountain.
Yeah.
Of course, my back would hate me later.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised that Disney hasn't never built a park like somewhere centrally located. Like they have them in the coast, like on the East Coast and the West Coast. I'm surprised they didn't do it. They never did anything like in the middle of the country that was more centrally located for.
I think part of the reason for that just simply has to deal with I think it has to deal with what's in the middle of the country. There's a lot of farmland, and you don't really want to get rid of that because that's part of the grain belt and all that. But at the same time, think about what the Air Force has out there.
Yeah,
in the middle of the country, there's a lot of hidden missile silos, located throughout the center part of the United States, and we don't want to mess with that.
I mean, we do have our fair share of theme parks out there, though.
We do, but not many.
Well, we got at least 2 or 3 Six Flags. You got one in Ohio, Cedar Mountain in Ohio. You got Dollywood down in Kentucky. Silver Dollar City in Missouri. So you got about 4 or 5, but they seem to be more scattered than you would have probably like California, where you have like LA has like what 4 alone.
Los Angeles. I mean, if you're counting major theme parks, you've got Universal Studios, you've got Disney, the Disney Resort, you've got you have Knott's Berry Farm.
Yeah.
And then if you go just a little ways outside of Los Angeles into Santa Clarita, you have Six Flags Magic Mountain. So there's four, and that's just in the Los Angeles Anaheim area. If you go down into San Diego, you've got Legoland, you've got there's SeaWorld, and obviously the San Diego Zoo, but it's not really a theme park the same way that SeaWorld is a theme park.
Yeah.
And then but then up north you've got another Six Flags park at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, which and we used to have another theme park called Paramount's Great America, and let me see. I think they renamed it. I think it's just called it's called California Great America now.
Okay.
California's Great America. The Paramount branding has gone by the wayside, and that I remember going to that park 25 years ago, and it was pretty spectacular. It was really a lot of fun, but it's a lot. It doesn't have nearly the same thematic kick as something like Universal or Disney, where or even Knott's Berry Farm, because Knott's Berry Farm has that Wild West vibe to it.
Yeah. So here we have Six Flags Mid America, which is in St. Louis, Six Flags Great America, which is in the Chicago area. You have Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. You have Indiana Beach, which their tagline is "There's more than corn in Indiana." But which kind of cool. It's a small park, but it's like an old school boardwalk where everything is just on one boardwalk with all the different rides.
Yeah.
You got Cedar Mountain, which is in just outside Cincinnati.
Yeah, I've heard of that place.
Yeah, it's got some some of the. It has some of the I've never been. They say it's got some of the best roller coasters in the country, like the biggest and some of the biggest and fastest.
Yeah.
But most people here, if they go to Six Flags down in St. Louis.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the Six Flags, Six Flags has. I'm looking at the map. They've got two. Well, technically, they've got 4 parks in California.
Yeah.
But but they're in 3 locations. So the first 2 are Six Flags Magic Mountain and Hurricane Harbor, both of which are right next to each other in Valencia.
Yeah.
You've got Discovery Kingdom in Vallejo, and then Hurricane Harbor Concord, which is not too far from Vallejo. Then you've got there's 1 in Arizona outside of Phoenix. There's 2 in Texas. I've been to Six Flags over Dallas, Fort Worth. There's 1 in Oklahoma. Or 2 in Oklahoma. There's the 1 in Missouri. There's the 1 in Illinois. There's 3 in Illinois. There's Six Flags Great America, Hurricane Harbor, and then Hurricane Harbor Rockford.
Yeah.
You've got 3 in Georgia, 2 of which are in Austell, and then Whitewaters and Marietta. There's 1 in, it looks like, Virginia or Maryland. There's 2 in New York, 1 on the west end and 1 on the east side. There is that New Jersey? And then but if you look at it, the bulk of the middle of the country is there's nothing in New Mexico, nothing in Utah, Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Minnesota, the Dakotas, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana.
Wyoming doesn't exist, so
true. Although, Utah.
Apologies to our fans out in Wyoming, by the way.
Yes, our 1 fan in Wyoming.
You do exist. Everyone knows it's Delaware that does not exist.
And that 1 fan in Wyoming is a buffalo. Don't at me.
He can't. He can't. He has hooves. He can't type.
Thank God. Okay. But Utah does have a couple of. It does have one really good theme park. I haven't been there. It's called Lagoon. It's a water park, but it's only open during the summers, so that kind of tanks it. But it's also Utah. I mean, it's the nation. It's the I don't know, the city state equivalent of diet soda, I guess. I don't know.
It's pretty. It looks pretty.
Depending on where you go.
Yeah.
There's quite literally a town called Mexican Hat, Utah, in the middle of the desert, and it is flat and arid and dry, and nothing lives there.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, I think we have taken up enough time talking about our travel plans and derailing this episode to talking about theme parks.
I know. It's been a good episode. You know what? I like these random conversations.
I do too. It makes it real.
It does, because I mean, we totally went in with a plan. Neither of us really knew much about what we were talking about today. The only person who
I completely forgot that we were
talking,
because I was thinking like, okay, this is the 5th, but then I big brain here. Anyway, Brian already did his outro, so Garrett, why don't you take us out first and tell us where people can find you at?
Well, you guys can find me on Instagram and X at GKJ_publishing, where I talk about my books. I've got a fantasy series called The Archives of Issink Ran. There's 5 books in it. I'm working on book 6 now. I also have a new book that just came out a month and a half ago called Midnight Playground. It's a collected anthology of original short stories. This was a lot of fun to put together. It's got everything from romance to thriller to ghost stories to science fiction to urban fantasy. It's got a little bit of everything for everyone. It was a lot of fun. And this weekend, I'm actually going to be at the Barnes & Noble in Visalia, California, doing a book signing for that book and for my first book, The Heirs of Menenias, which just celebrated its 10th anniversary back in February. You can also catch me on YouTube. Just do a search for GKJ Publishing, and you'll catch my show The Right Way, where we talk book recommendations, author interviews, and creative writing tips. This Saturday, actually, April 5th, not only is it the day of my book signing, but it's also the start of Author Awareness April, which is an interview marathon. Normally, I do 1 episode a month with all the content, but this month especially, I have every week is going to be a new interview with a new author, and I'm really excited for that. Then again, you can catch me on Feast of Fandoms on Snackame, where we talk anime and eat snacks. My co-host Janae is awesome, and this coming up month, we are going to be talking about the YouTube released anime short called Alien Monday. Really looking forward to that, because that's going to actually drop on April 26th, Alien Day.
Nice. All right. As for us right here, if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so at our email, warthestars1@gmail.com. We're also on all social medias at warthestars77. So check us out there. We are, as Garrett mentioned, we are a proud member of Feast of Fandoms. Check out all the shows on Feast of Fandoms. A bunch of great guys and gals there doing great work. We're proud to be part of our silly little show with our silly little Star Wars show. If you want to support the show, you can do so at Ko-fi. That's ko.fi.com/War of the Stars. Or you can go to our Spreadshirt shop. Go to spreadshirt.com/shop/war-of-the-stars. I need to change that if I can figure out how make it more simpler. Yes, again, thanks for watching. As always, remember, this is not just my Star Wars. This is not just your Star Wars. This is our Star Wars. Until next time, may the Force be with you.
Coolio. We got that done.
Yep. That That was
No,
the
I think
President of the Sun.